intro to a podcast?
I don't know. You've listened to them. I haven't.
I mean, do I have to like just based on the fact that I have listened to more podcasts than you? Do I have to like play like host and introduce the show and all that? That doesn't seem fair. I gotta like bear that burden.
Well, okay.
That's fine. I'm mostly kidding.
Well, let me ask you this: do you only do one intro and you just reuse it, or do you basically do a quick intro for each one?
No,
it's just if you do a quick intro for each one, you just alternate, and you.
No, you just start. Hi, welcome to whatever. We don't have a name yet, but I'm Kevin Kuenn.
I'm Mike Olson.
There you go. We've just started a podcast. I don't. That's more or less it.
All right.
So we've started. Like this is the podcast now.
Yeah.
We've said our names. So
right,
there's no going back.
No, all right. Well, then, so what you're saying is just for the intro for the first episode, you have to.
No, that's how you start every episode. We'll start every episode. It's, welcome to whatever we
like
end up naming
but
this.
we have to actually give some background that we're just.
Oh yeah, we have to do that also.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so then
there's really no background to tell. So
yeah, we have to lead off. We have absolutely no credentials whatsoever.
Exactly.
One film study class, at least for me, but that gives me no credibility other than I've watched a lot of movies and a lot of TV.
I was a DVD reviewer for a third-rate website for 6 months.
What was that website?
I'd rather not say.
All right, well,
I don't want to give them publicity, and also I didn't end on the best terms with them anyway. So
fair enough. My Hollywood credibility is for a relatively long period of time. I played the Hollywood Stock Exchange game in college.
That's true. That actually, you know what? I think that does give you a certain amount of credibility. You were what? How high were you? You were like the fifth richest or something. Like you were up there.
I wasn't fifth richest, but what I was is I became for a while. I was sort of there were about 5 or 6 at that time. I haven't looked at the game in a while, but there were third party websites, and this is circa probably some of the people that might be listening to this probably weren't even born.
Yeah, I was going to say there was a 1 in front of the year.
Yes, there is a 1. It did not start in the 2s. This is probably 1998, 1999. So there were some third party websites. I took the handle of Gordon Gekko. Yes, Wall Street. This was long before that second really bad or that really bad sequel, not the second sequel. So I was a big fan of Wall Street, so I took that.
Wait, stop. Second sequel? What are you talking about?
That's what I meant. There was no second sequel. I was misspeaking. The sequel to Wall Street.
There was no sequel.
Yeah, there was. To Wall Street?
I think I'm confused by the way you phrased that. You said second sequel, implying there was a third movie.
Right, and that's why I was trying to clarify that I didn't mean second sequel.
Okay,
I meant second movie.
I was confused. I was like, wait a minute, there's a third Wall Street movie?
No, well, I'm sure if there's any franchise value that Fox has probably right now got it in development.
They have to wait for another financial crisis or some kind of something to happen on Wall Street before they make a third one.
Which is only a matter of time, so Fox just needs to wait things out.
But yeah, that gives you some credentials.
So to finish that up, my handle was Gordon Gekko. What I became is I was an expert on not the equities, but the bonds, the star bonds. And the ways those worked is that they would adjust. And back then, there weren't algorithms from Google that you could have running on a phone. You actually had to build an Excel sheet to run. Oh well, when this new movie opens and that gets added into Arnold Schwarzenegger or whoever it was, this is what they're then going to be worth. So there was some people that read what I wrote, and I did it for probably like a year or whatever, and then.
But you were a very close observer of the movie business in general.
Absolutely. So yes,
and I think it's fair to say, like I definitely don't pay as much attention to you, but we both love movies. We've been friends for a long time. Yep. We can't get together without talking about movies. So generally, this kind of just started as a joke where you and I were just like, we should do a podcast, and then suddenly now we're here talking in the microphone. So
yeah,
somehow it actually happened.
Yeah, and it started off of particularly a love of Last Action Hero and Schwarzenegger movies, but some of the other topics that have been discussed are, since we're talking about the Hollywood Stock Exchange, not to try and get people to sign up for that. I don't play that anymore because I don't have time.
We're not being paid by the Hollywood Stock Exchange.
We are not in any way, shape, or form. But we've discussed the kind of the business of movies and how.
By the way, we're open to being paid by the Hollywood Stock Exchange.
I certainly wouldn't complain. But how we've discussed the business and how movies, particularly the type of movies we're planning on talking about, they weren't a product as much as they seem as action movies today seem to be like a product that is put out. But it's really interesting how at least I've observed that the business of Hollywood and movies has changed. over time. So this isn't just something that we just have we're huge fanatical fans of one type of actor or one genre of movie. There's a lot of stuff we like. There's some other stuff that we don't. But we've had multiple discussions about Hollywood in general, because it expands out to TV as well.
Yeah, it's interesting you put it that way, because I've never actually thought about it in those terms. But you're right. This is almost like us working through our grief about. But it's us working out our grief about a kind of movie that doesn't exist anymore. The death of this genre that people think still exists but is not. It's just like it has morphed into something that is not the same.
Yeah. Other than, you can make the argument the Expendables movies is kind of like the last bastion, or like hanging on to that. And there's somewhat, in at least the best one, the second one, poking fun, of that time period.
Well, but the fact that
that's like it. There isn't that stuff being made anymore.
And the fact that those movies exist as an attempt to recapture something is almost evidence that it no longer is around. Because you wouldn't need to recapture. If those movies still existed, there'd be no need for these.
You wouldn't need all of those actors and
right.
And with the third one, actresses
those movies are like the monsters of 80s rock tours, where it's just like, here's 8 bands that all could sell at arenas in 1984, and now they all have to play together in order to fill. It's basically what that is. Not that I'm necessarily pining for that, for the monsters of 1984. Like but I'm sure somebody is. I'll bet someone has a podcast about Poison and Quiet Riot and all of them.
Absolutely.
So
I also thought Kuenn might have been baiting me to try and get Spinal Tap in here, because that really is. Well, I'll just leave it that I want to say some Spinal Tap lines, but we're sticking to the action genre.
Yeah. So yeah, we made that rule a little while ago. So we recorded about 40 minutes of us kind of trying to figure out how the hell to do this. So we're going to cut that in after this introduction, and I don't know. It's us trying to figure out what this show is. This is going to be really rough. This is going to go up kind of as episode 0. We don't have a name yet. You'll hear our pathetic attempts to think up something on the spot, which didn't go so well. But yeah, it's just us kind of figuring this out. This is the first time even using this equipment. Like, I think by episode 1 we'll be up on our feet, but we don't know what the hell we're doing. We're not professional podcasters. We're not professional comedians. We're not in the movie business. We're just 2 guys who like to talk about movies, and decided why not stick microphones in front of our faces, and maybe people would enjoy it. So,
and if nothing else, maybe the people that do listen pick up on the underrated movies that might have been in days past that people aren't watching, and they hear in particular what we think we're going to do for episode 1, one of the great underrated movies, and something that was greatly ahead of its time. And there are a few things that Kuenn and I have discussed and talked about that were really far ahead of its time. And
you're overselling it a little bit.
Why?
Ahead of its time, like look, I'm not gonna. I love Last Action Hero. That's what he was getting at. We were going to do Last Action Hero,
yes.
but I wouldn't necessarily say ahead of its time. It's ahead of its time in the sense that there's the kind of self-irony or whatever, but
self-irony and meta. It was well ahead of its. You're talking about a movie that's in 1994. We should probably look it up, but here off the cuff, it's like 1993 or 1994. That is ahead of its time. I'm not saying that it was that everything about it is perfect. All I'm saying is that things that now are taken for granted, in particular, a lot of TV shows, in particular comedies, do a lot of that. And I'm not going to say it didn't exist before Last Action Hero, but for that genre, it was ahead of its time.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I love Last Action Hero. I'm not. I just don't want to oversell. What is a movie that most people really don't like.
Yeah, well, its rating on IMDb is not great, but that whatever.
Well, this is good though, because it means we'll have something to talk about. Because it won't just be like I think maybe that it's because I've watched it more recently than you, and I also remember the parts of Last Action Hero that maybe aren't so great.
That could be.
But yeah, we'll have plenty to talk about for sure.
Yep.
So anyway, here's like I said, we recorded this earlier, and I don't know how to end this segment. Do we just say, okay, here it is, and then stop?
Well, here's what I'd say.
How do we get from here to there?
Do I just stop from here to there? I'd say that what we need to work on is if you're doing a podcast about this material, you have to have a catchphrase to end on. I know we're going to have a hard enough time coming up with a title, so then to come up with something really witty and biting. But I really think we got to close with something, probably every episode with the same one, and it should be something somewhat of a pun. So for this episode, it's going to be tough because we don't know what it is.
But this isn't even the end of the episode. We're going to cut in what we just recorded about an hour ago.
Oh,
so we're not recording the ending. We're recording the ending of the intro. We don't know what we're doing, listener. we have no idea how to do this. This is why this is not episode 1. This is episode 0 because we don't have a clue. But we'll figure it out. Anyway, I'm just going to stop talking and I'm going to stop the recording, and then you'll start hearing another part of us talking from before.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay.
Without my suggestion, or
your suggestion to buy equipment?
Well, suggestion that a podcast would be a good idea.
Oh no, I wouldn't have done this unless we had started talking about it.
Oh my god! So where'd you get it?
I'm getting on microphone. I don't know about you. We got to get used to this.
That is true.
You can adjust, do what you need to do. Just put it in your face.
Well, just dunk it right in his face.
No, yeah, like these arms were not as much as you'd think. Like so, $12 a piece.
And then what's the rest? Where'd the microphones come from?
Those are very expensive rock band microphones.
Did you get them from Kazaric?
No, I got them from me from my rock band game. These are official rock band branded microphones.
All right, let me see. I don't see it anywhere on there. It's probably on the cord.
It's being blocked by the stand, I'll bet.
Oh, all right. I was going to say, I feel like we actually have to have some level of professionalism and actually.
No, this is this is episode 0. Like I'll cut and paste pieces of this, but
so okay,
I want to get it down on record. So like we put it out. This is us putting together this podcast.
You said in an email that you had an idea of what the order should be. So I think that's the first thing.
My thought was we put together I think the agenda for today is put together a list of movies. Like just get the definitive list of here are the movies.
Would you want to do them all at some point?
I think that's the goal.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I didn't know if there were some that just aren't worth doing. I think there's probably some, but
my thought is
get 5 or 10 to get things started.
All right, fair enough. But my thought was to add an element of randomness to it, whether that's picking 10 and say we're going to do these 10 first, and then whatever order those 10 are, we'll just kind of, at the end of every episode, randomly, I could put together an Excel sheet or something. But
yeah, that's fine.
Because, if we're just picking them, whatever the, collateral damage, we'll never get to it. It'll be I feel like the goal should be, we're here to cover the entirety of
I would do
whatever that means.
I'm fine doing the 6th day and some of the ones that are.
No, I think we should. That's what I'm saying. But if we are just picking here's the one we want to do next, those will all come last, and they'll all
Probably that's fair. I guess my only point is that for people to be interested, I don't think you can lead off with something where people are collateral damage or.
Oh, I don't think we should lead off with that. That's for sure.
The Last Stand, which I actually kind of like The Last Stand, even though it's not great.
Yeah, I remember liking it.
Yeah, I'd watch it again and not be angry.
I think there was a certain amount of novelty in terms of just seeing Arnold on the screen again.
Right,
after
he was back
10 years.
From it was probably at least a 8-year, if not a 10-year hiatus.
Yeah, but I mean, my thought is. We'll have it be semi-random. We'll sort of pick a block. It'll say, here are going to be our first whatever. And then from there, we'll do it random. But I also think our first one needs to be Last Action Hero.
Do you really think that's the only problem that I have with Last Action Hero is I feel like there's so much and so much excitement that should be saved for a little bit later.
No, but that's like the whole reason why. Like, I feel like the germ of this whole podcast is our shared love of Last Action Hero.
All right, there's
so like it's almost like a thesis statement for the podcast. Like, how could we not?
I mean,
how could we not cover it
there's
right
some
away?
truth to that. I'm afraid that if you lead off with your best material, that you can only disappoint from there.
Yeah, well, the other thing we need to talk about is a name for the podcast, and I was going to suggest Last Action Podcast, but someone already took it, the bastards.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why would somebody take that?
And they're like, it was like the last episode was like in 2008. It lasted like 6 episodes, which well, we may not even make it that far, but who knows? But yeah,
was it about?
It's a defunct podcast. It's about action movies in general. I don't think they did a single Arnold movie. It was like they did like Demolition Man. I didn't actually listen to it.
Demolition Man would actually be a nice one to do.
Yeah, that would definitely be a fun movie to talk about.
All right. Well, I hadn't thought up any name ideas, so we'll have to come up with that.
But like,
I'm not completely opposed to the idea. The only fear I have is that it'll be all downhill from there because there's just so much in that, and I just feel like there'll be so much excitement and
it either needs to be first or last, and who knows if we'll ever get to last. Like I feel like,
right. If you think that, then it should be first because who knows if we'll ever get to it? And I think if there's a movie that is underappreciated and deserves attention,
it's like the whole reason I feel like we're doing this is because you and I can't get together without talking about Last Action Hero, so we may as well get it out of the way.
I can't understand why people don't appreciate that for what it is.
Exactly. Well, I think
it was ahead of its time by at least a decade. And not only that, I forget about this until I went and looked. It has one of the greatest action directors in the history of film.
Yeah, John McTiernan directed that.
Right, until he went to prison.
Why did he go to prison?
I don't actually remember. I think it was something.
Oh, should we not?
I don't know if it was tag. We should look that up. But my point is that I completely forgot about that. I'm like, oh my god, this has like everything of the making. I understand why people were angry and frustrated because it had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, action director of all time. Arnold coming off of one of the greatest, if not the greatest, action movie of all time.
Yeah, and it wasn't what people expected.
And it was poor marketing. That doesn't make a bad product. That just makes bad movie executives marketing a product wrong.
So yeah, we like.
Well,
so here's what we should do. I think.
I guess too, for me, thinking out loud, I don't have to go back and watch that movie. Meaning, we can actually do it relatively quickly because I mean I know it inside and out. Some of the other ones,
which Last Action Hero?
Yeah, I mean
you should still watch it. I watched it. I just bought the Blu-ray and I watched it recently, and I was. I mean, it's definitely like I still love that movie, but there are parts that your brain tends to wash over when you haven't seen it in a while.
All right,
I'd recommend you watch it.
Right,
I will definitely be rewatching it, assuming we're doing it first, which I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair to do it first. I'll watch it again. I will bring my Last Action Hero action figures with me.
Well, it's a podcast, so I don't know how much that'll help.
It doesn't matter. They're here in spirit.
They're going to be offering like like support for us. Like
yes, perhaps I'll have supporting roles of me reenacting.
I'll just describe. You can reenact, and I'll paint a word picture for everybody.
In particular, maybe I'll open it up and actually have Benedict's case, and I'll put it in his hand. I'm still not sure why he has that.
The fact that those exist, like that's definitely like I can't. When you first of all, just the fact that they exist, but that you already had, Last Action Hero figures and forgot about them. Isn't that what happened? You forgot that you owned them.
Well, what happened is I had a box. I had a storage container of quote-unquote collectibles from my high school and college days, mostly Simpsons-related stuff, including the Stephen Hawking, which I was very excited to find out was worth more than any of the other Simpsons characters I had. But also within there, I had 2 other sets. Well, not sets, but things from other movies. I had Mr. Pink from Reservoir Dogs, which was by far and away my favorite of the Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
And yes, I had a complete set, including Danny Madigan from Last Action Hero.
That's the worst action figure.
Yes, the fact that the comedic sidekick got a character, and the best part was, yes, I did forget about him, but then when I found them to see that one of them was a generic box that just was like a 3-pack. That's just like a generic white box that says Mattel Last Action Hero on it, and I'll bring it.
Yeah,
but the fact that it was in the junk pile that oh crap, we've got way too much production of these. We don't want to spend the money to package each one individually. Right. We'll just throw 3 in a generic box.
The movie's failure became apparent so quickly that it affected like the production chain of this toy line.
I mean, it's not E.T. the video game where they were just going to bury it in a pit in New Mexico, but it's the alternative, which is, yes, we will still try and sell these, but just in a generic white packaging.
Spending as little as possible just to get the product on shelves.
And it at least was somewhat successful because I bought one, and I'm glad to still have it.
Oh, you don't buy it for the packaging, especially like Last Action Hero figures you're not buying them for the
collectible value.
Right, exactly. You're not making an investment there.
No. You are, but it's a poor investment.
It's an emotional investment.
Yes.
More than a financial one.
So then I guess the only other thing to discuss is,
so are we agreed at least, like, we'll pick, like, let's say, the 10 movies, and then we'll do Last Action Hero, and then at the end of every episode, we'll, like, randomly select from
what's
the one.
Be next.
And I feel like we should take, like, out of those 10, they shouldn't all be 10 movies we really, like, love or want to talk about. It should be, like, mix it up so that it's, like, okay, Collateral Damage, I don't know why. I just saw it recently, and I'm going to use that as the example of the movie that is going to be.
I think Eraser or 6th Day is actually worse than that, but whatever, I understand.
I remember liking Eraser. 6th Day I only saw part of. But
6th Day is awful.
But whatever, you know what I mean. Like it'll be like a third like movies that are like great and we want to talk about them. A third movies that are bad and we want to talk about them because they're awesome and bad. And a third of like just like
they have to be done for
let's just
posterity more than anything. Yeah, and
we have to do our due diligence and cover
the only other thing that probably makes sense too then is to break up the Terminator movies so that they're not all in one block.
Put them in different blocks.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that. Okay, so now all we need is a name.
And well, then I guess I don't listen to these really that much. Is there like a length that they tend to run, or are they
just podcasts in general?
Yeah, in general.
Well, like for me, the model I'm using, because I listen to the James Bonding podcast.
Is that the name of it? Bonding?
It's James Bonding. Okay. Matt Myra and Matt Gorley. Basically, like I'm planning to basically steal their whole format. That's more or less the whole how the idea entered my head, and when I started jokingly suggesting it to you. Yeah. It was because I was listening to James Bonding and going like, oh, like this, but for Schwarzenegger movies.
Yeah, because it hasn't been done. Despite the fact somebody has stolen the perfect name.
They stole the name, but no one's ever done a podcast like that. But I mean, they usually go about 2 hours. Like they just go
on each one.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, then I'm gonna have to come up with a lot of stuff.
I mean, we can do whatever. I mean, we'll talk until we're out of things to talk about. Like,
I guess some movies it might be no problem. Getting a decent length, and then other ones it's going to be.
I'll bet you we can go 2 hours about Last Action Hero, because I mean generally what they do is they just go through the movie like almost scene by scene, like not quite, but they'll just go okay, this happens and this happens, and they just kind of like walk their way
through the entire
the movie.
Okay. Well then, yeah,
we don't have to do that though. We can do whatever you want. I mean, it's up to us.
Especially for that one, to be honest, the second half might be a little bit of a drag, but definitely for the first half. I mean, there's. How do you skip most of that stuff? I mean, there's
first half of Last Action Hero.
I mean, the entire thing inside Jack Slater 4.
Most scenes I think will have something to talk about.
Yes, absolutely.
So we're going to have to go scene by scene,
including whether it's right now or when we actually record the first one. I will say right now, Hollywood, if anybody's listening, please, you have no original ideas, or actually you do, but you're just choosing not to make any. For the love of God, somebody make the Jack Slater movies, because I am ready to go see the Jack Slater movies.
I am too, but Arnold's too old. Like that ship has sailed.
I didn't say it had to be Arnold. Just make the Jack Slater movies. I think they would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but who would it be? Like, who could you... It wouldn't be the same. No matter who it is, no matter who you cast, it's not the same. It's not... Are you saying, like, just make something with that tone? Like,
yes. I mean, whether or not it has Arnold, I think, yes, that would make it more fun, but he is too old. So I don't care. You can find a way that if he's involved, whether it's like Terminator Genesis, although he had a lot of screen time in Terminator Genesis and really was the only part of that that's worth talking about. But what my point is that type of movie, I'd be interested in seeing. That's all I'm saying.
So you're just saying just like a Dirty Harry, but comedic and kind of
not slapstick, but somewhere
right has a layer of irony slathered on top.
Yes.
Well, I mean, again, we should save it until we're actually doing the Last Action Hero podcast. But the one thing I will say is I think having watched it again recently, I couldn't help but wish that's what it was. I kind of wish Last Action Hero, because the parts that are the weakest are the parts where they go to the real world and all that, and like Danny Madigan's life. Who cares? Like there's a scene where he like gets like they get robbed. And it's like I don't care. Like it doesn't matter really. This has no effect on the rest of the movie.
Outside of a couple of things, because there are a couple of great ones, including 89 Mercury Sable, no airbag, or Yellow Taxi, no airbag.
There are a few nice moments of Jack Slater reacting to the real world, but generally speaking, what I wish it was just a Jack Slater movie, and then 10 minutes in, a kid shows up and says, "I'm from the real world," and they never break the reality of...
Break through the wall, right.
Right. The beginning of the movie says Jack Slater 4, and you never... wink and you never like acknowledge that this is a movie within a movie. And watching it again recently, I couldn't help but go like, oh, if they had just done that and stuck to it. And then at some point the kid leaves and you get like a glimpse of the real world. But the whole movie should have just been like as if you're watching that movie and then someone is like invading it.
We'll save it, but the only thing I'll say is that what you would lose is maybe my favorite part in the movie. Though, if you did that, you'd lose Hamlet. And I'm telling you, for the people that I have implored, including one of our favorite, Jen, my wife, and myself's favorite servers at Morton's in Naperville, where we go for our special occasions. I've actually have bought him a copy of Last Action Hero as a tip.
Wait,
in addition to actual monetary tips, but one Christmas I gave him the DVD.
Who's this?
It's we asked for the same server at Morton's Steakhouse.
Okay.
Because I've talked to him about movies and stuff, and we go there enough for like our anniversary.
Okay, so you know this, him well enough to know that he'd appreciate this. Not
exactly. And he likes movies, and he appreciates certain.
I thought you were just handing them out.
Not just random.
That's just your standard tip.
Preaching the gospel.
Right.
No.
But have you heard the good word of Jack Slater?
True that. What I've said to people, including him, is that if you watch nothing else, you have to absolutely get to. It's only like 10 minutes in. You have to get to Arnold as Hamlet because it may be some of the greatest cinema entertainment. Not acting or drama, but of all time.
I have to admit, as like my version, the version I just pitched, losing Hamlet. You're absolutely right. Like it's not worth that trade. I take back everything.
Too big of a price to pay.
It's episode 0. I'm already backpedaling on everything I've said. I take it all back. You're right. You're absolutely right. I didn't. It's not something that occurred to me until
there are certainly some other things that we can get into it with. Charles Dance and whatever. But
we got to save it.
All right. But Hamlet cannot be on the cutting room floor.
I agree. Yeah, you're 100% right. All right. So I don't know if you want to like. We don't have to necessarily do like segments, but I was thinking like I will at the very least be doing a body count for every episode or every movie we watch. I'll take that. I'll take that responsibility.
Do wounds count as well?
No, death.
Okay, I'm checking.
A body count.
I will tell you now, the Commando, it's going to be a lot of work. As I recall, I've done something similar, unless it may be already on the IMDb. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure it is. I'm going to do my own count and compare, and yeah, I'll see how close I get. But yeah, I'm sure those exist.
Commando's going to be a high one. I'll just tell you that right now.
But I'm sure it is. I will be pausing a lot, and like I'll have to buy like one of those like things you click, whatever those are.
I don't know. Not a stopwatch, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know what those are called, like a clicker counter or whatever.
Yes.
And the other thing I was planning to do is a pun count.
Oh man.
And possibly editing them all together to experience together. Because the one thing, and I will
lead off with our favorite one from Last Action Hero. That's all I ask for.
Well, the nice thing, because I made sure I set up, because this recording setup, which is for the listener just attached. We kind of described it earlier, but attached to some dinner trays in my living room. But the nice thing about it is.
You can pull them right up. Wow!
It'll play right in my recording.
All I want is something unlimited.
If we could mute this ad, but yeah, we can definitely like stitch together. I don't know if I'll actually have the time or the energy to do this, but obviously the internet has done this for us. Once this ad is done playing,
it's showtime.
So, I mean, at the very least, we can play clips.
All right, everyone.
It'll end up on the podcast.
Chill.
Allow me to break the ice. I need your clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
Anyway, that's a YouTube clip of 160 greatest Schwarzenegger quotes.
But not the pun, so we will have to find.
Right, exactly. That's a different thing. Quotes are different than puns. I'm specifically looking for puns.
That's fair, and I will. When I watch, I'll try and take notes to make sure that we, both have it. I'm sure you'll have more of an attention to detail on that.
Well, whatever. I mean, if you have puns that I missed,
right? That's
free.
What I'm saying.
So yeah, I think all that's left is coming up with a name for this thing, whatever the hell it is.
Yes, I don't know if we want to record us trying to figure that out.
I mean, I'm sure I'll cut most of this out, if not like.
All right, well that's fair.
I mean, the only idea I really had was Last Action Podcast, and those sons of bitches stole it, whoever they are.
That is terrible.
I didn't actually listen to it. Maybe it's a very good podcast, but
I'm guessing that it would be too inside for us for it to be Jack Slater 5. Because nobody would know what the hell it means other than like the 1% of people that have seen Last Action Hero.
Yeah, but that's the 1% we're trying to appeal to. That's our demo. The tricky thing about the name is it can't just be... It has to be clear that it's not... Like, we can't call it like the Arnold Schwarzenegger podcast, because then people are going to be like, oh, Arnold Schwarzenegger is a podcast? Yeah. Oh, who are these two idiots? So it can't be something... It pretty much can't have Arnold's name in it.
Yes.
Because people will get the wrong idea. So it has to be something that people who enjoy these movies on the level that we enjoy them, which, like, people should know immediately, like, oh, that's a podcast about Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, but it can't be... I mean, I guess you could get too inside, right? But I'd rather go too inside than too, like non-specific. Even Last Action Podcast is a little too specific because people might not understand that it's a tricky thing. Like James Bonding is a great name for a podcast, but there's no there's no equivalent. There's no Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, there's no equivalent because there's nothing that carries over in any of his movies. It's one character for the Bond films, right? So it carries over. Other than the T-800, nothing's going to carry over from any of his movies.
But it's got to be like a play on some Arnold quote. Or some line that people would recognize. It's not a tumor, it's a podcast. Along those lines. That's the bad version of it.
Okay.
Should we just run through some
Yeah, I guess we just start throwing them out and see. You've got there might already be one out there for "Will be back" instead of "I'll be back," but that doesn't necessarily tell you that it's film.
Yeah, that's very. It's obviously the most well known of his lines,
right? But that doesn't mean people would know.
It's not a good name for a podcast. It has to be both.
Yeah,
or at least it ideally should be. Yeah. We're gonna who knows if we'll even. We don't even necessarily need to come up with this today because I think I don't even know if you want to do the rest of this episode 0 today because this is obviously just like a trial run.
Right.
But before episode 1, we definitely need a name. So even if we don't come up with it now, as long as we have something before we record episode 1, because episode 1, this is just us messing around. That reminds me, there's another question because I should ask you if you want to allow cursing on this podcast.
Oh man,
because I really don't care, but this is something you have kids and I don't, so this is the potential for your kids to stumble across this at some point.
Yes,
it's something that I don't know if you've thought about, but
it's a good point. I would say that in an ideal world, I would say probably I'd try and avoid it. But
we're probably going to end up playing clips.
End up playing clips, and more importantly is that you're an hour and whatever in, and unfortunately cursing is just part of my everyday conversation.
Well, that's why we're fine with it. I was just about to. Well, I don't remember what I was about to say, but I was just about to curse, and I stopped myself, and I went wait, why?
Well, I know
just because there's a microphone in my face, I went oh, as if I'm on the radio or something.
The microphone FCC button. Oh, we got to dump that. We got to dump that.
Hit the dump button. But seriously, I had that reaction of just a microphone. I can't swear. It was a weird reaction I just had.
I I'd try and at least limit it so that it's not the worst of them.
We'll keep it down.
Keep it to the Bart Simpson of I know hell and damn.
Right. We're free to curse, but that's another thing I wanted to suggest is to as difficult as it's going to be for both of us to keep the non-Arnold references to a minimum, because it's
extremely difficult.
Yeah, it'll be very difficult. But if it's just nothing but Simpsons and Seinfeld quotes, whatever people aren't into that are gonna super hate us.
All right, that's true and fair. The only thing I would say is that I think it's fair game that if it's at least within the genre, then it's fair. If you say Simon Says, I think that's more than appropriate if it's an 80s or 90s action movie.
And certainly McBain is on the table.
Thank you very much. McBain absolutely should be in particular. Yeah, magic ticket my ass, McBain.
Yeah, we definitely can't rule out McBain.
My mighty heart is breaking. I'll be in the Humvee.
Okay, what were we talking about?
Well, we were thinking about maybe trying to riff a few more names, and I'm just trying to think if there's any other quotes, that tie in really well.
Rubber Baby Buggy Podcast. Everyone will know that's an Arnold line. That'll be completely obvious to everybody.
I gotta not focus on last section here because there's just so many that I just like to say. Are you the drug dealer of the house? It's so funny to me.
It's a beautiful day.
We out killing drug dealers.
Do you want to be a farmer? Here's a couple of guys talking into a microphone. I literally have nothing. I tried to put together a list and I had nothing then, so I was hoping at least being able to bounce off each other would get something.
We'll come up with something, yeah.
Well, what are the lines? Arnold, I'll Be Back is pretty much the only thing from Terminator.
Yep.
That's a memorable line of his. Let's just go through. Is there something from Conan the Barbarian? I'm just trying to think of. Just run through the movies. Hasta la Vista podcast.
No.
I don't know. Yeah, I got nothing.
I'm trying to think in Commando. You've got a lot of really great lines. But do any of them work? Let off some steam, Bennett.
There are a lot of lines that will work well in the context of a podcast. If we would decide to take a break,
right?
You're just stick around. We'll be back, and then at the end of the episode, we'll be back. There's all kinds of things that you could work into a podcast, but as a title, none of those work.
As a title, no, it's hard. Ooh. What was the name of? Was it Pumping Iron?
Yeah.
Can we do something to play on Pumping Iron for a podcast? Whether it's alliteration.
All I can do is replace words with podcast right now. So all I can think of is podcasting iron, which is also.
Well, and I thought the opposite. All I could do was pumping pod.
That sounds vaguely sexual in a way that I don't know if I'm comfortable with.
Okay, fair enough. But you never know.
Very vaguely.
We might get a completely different audience that we didn't even think that we'd rope in.
Pumping pod. What's that mean?
I'm interested. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, maybe. It's it has a similar. The fact that it's a verb weirdly fits. I feel like there's something there.
Okay. All right.
Pumping Iron. I've never actually seen Pumping Iron. It's one of those that I'm kind of interested to see and talk about, even though I have no idea what that movie is like.
I don't either, and that's why I was going to ask and check with you to make sure that was going to be on the list, because I've never seen it.
I think it has to be on the list.
I agree.
It's a movie about him. It's not even just he's starring in it.
Right, so then...
and not to interrupt the name thing, because I keep doing it, but there's another thing I wanted to get on microphone in terms of just I think the goal of this podcast is not necessarily about Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's about his movies. So, I feel like it should at least be made clear that we're not here to celebrate him. The guy's clearly got his problems, starting with infidelity and womanizing and stuff. I think at the very least it should be stated. I'm just stating for the record, as if I'm in court or something.
It's a deposition.
We're doing a podcast about Arnold Schwarzenegger. We should just make something clear. We're acknowledging that maybe this guy is not 100%
Right. No, it's more about.
It's about his persona and it's about
persona
his
in the movies. And I mean, at least for me, if these were somewhat interesting to people, I would say that it's not really about him. I would be more than willing, if there was demand, to move on, as already referenced, to Demolition Man, whether it's Wesley
Right.
Snipes and his problems, not to only single out action stars who have.
Yeah, he had slightly more serious problems.
Yes, but the point is that movies from that era and ilk probably aren't ever going to be made again, and they're a lot of fun. So I guess the reason why we're focusing on Arnold is, I don't know, one, there's a lot of material, and two, that we hadn't seen anything like that had been done before. So try that, and if people like it, then do some other, whether it's Stallone or whoever, somebody else that we really enjoy a lot of their movies and talking about them, and that they're fun, right? I mean, they're not Transformers where everything's being destroyed, or they're not just downer, all the time.
Even when everything is being destroyed, they're still fun somehow.
Right, yeah.
Even Commando is fun. Even
Yes.
though the number of deaths is astounding, but whatever.
The number of deaths, when you have your clicker, I think
Yeah.
you might break it.
You're probably right that I need to be really prepared. I'm going to have to be prepared for that.
That one in particular. So
Anyway, back to the
back to the name. So that actually, would rule out something kind of tying to like the Governator or something like that, because we don't really want to focus that it's not really about him. It's about the movies, and even somewhat if we really thought this was going to be something bigger than just Arnold, then it may actually be really something about the movie, that type of movie from that era, and maybe that's what we need to try and focus the name on.
Yeah, maybe
It's
it should be something that's broad enough that could expand to
right, because I outside of Demolition Man, I'm sure we could think of a few that we would have like a fun time watching and breaking down, or another person from that time, whether it was Bruce Willis and some of his whoever. So I think maybe it makes sense to be a little bit broader and think of that era and see if we can come up with a name. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud into a microphone.
What is Don't worry, most of this will get cut. This is not going to be. This will only be interesting in bits and pieces.
Yes. It's practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
In a body bag. Damn it! I was going for in a body bag. See, that's what. See, we can't help. You can't not reference Last Action Hero.
No, it's
we got to do it first.
It has to be first. But what were you?
So I was going to say, like,
broaden the name.
What is the thing that those kind of movies have in common that is not obvious? Like, if we could just like hone in on something.
The hard rock, the bad puns. I mean, really,
right.
That line captures what that era and what those movies are about. I mean, it's always like one guy, right? Other than the Lethal Weapon movies, but it's always one guy,
right?
There's maybe not all of them, especially, by the way, for those Beverly Hills Cops fans, if this makes it in, I really miss the 80s non-commercial soundtrack. I miss, like, the synthesizers. It's one of my favorite parts of Beverly Hills Cop. Die Hard's the same thing, right? There isn't any soundtrack tie-in at that point in the movies. But whether it's the hard rock and,
really? Beverly Hills Cop, the first one? There was a song.
There might have been one or two, but, like...
What's that song? There was a song. I
Okay,
can't remember what it was.
There was a song, but when you think Beverly Hills Cop, you think...
Well, sure.
It's actually on...
Don't sing too much. We'll have to pay for it.
Oh, yeah. All right. We'll just cut it off right there. It's in my head right now because I do have kids, and we listen to Sirius XM radio, and they actually have...
They play that?
They play it, but I mean, it was like... It's somehow been updated, and there's a kid's like character that says something in it. I can't remember what now, but it is clearly the Beverly Hills Cop theme with just something added, and so it's been in my head. But anyway, the point is that to me, the theme is you got one guy that saves the day, which isn't actually what the action movies are really about today at all. Yeah, I guess maybe some of the Marvel, the individual movies.
Well, I was just going to say, even they usually don't save the day. It's unusual when you see them like saving people. I remember when I was watching Iron Man 3, it was like, there was that scene where like people are falling and...
Yep.
Not to spoil Iron Man 3 too much, but like... Who cares? But, like, seeing him saving people's lives is just like, oh, right, he's a superhero. This is what they're supposed to do.
This is what they're supposed to do.
Well, it's shocking how, like, unusual it seemed in a Marvel movie to see that. So, yeah, like, it's totally, like... Although I don't know if, like, really a lot of Arnold movies he's doing that. I don't know if he's, like, saving people's lives necessarily.
The point is, it's like one guy on a mission, John Rambo. It's one guy on a mission, and he accomplishes it on his own. And that's probably the reason why the title Last Action Hero, was selected, right? He's the guy. You've got the music that's of the hard rock, even if it's not specifically actual, rock bands that have performed it, but that's the feel to it.
Right. It's like a rock score. It's not songs.
Score, there you go.
It's a rock score.
Exactly. And what am I missing in there? The bad puns. I mean, that does tend to be a little bit more Arnold, I think, than some of the others. And then they also always have something that seems to be written in as the most identifiable line with that movie. And if you think about it today, action movies, they don't have that. They do not have Yippee-Ki-Yay, and since we're trying to keep it clean, I won't finish McClane's line, but they don't have that today.
Mr. Falcon.
Well, and yes, that's also a plug right there to keep, man, how I miss broadcast TV.
Yes, this is something you and I have talked about a lot.
Many times.
This is exactly why I've been pushing to do a podcast, is to talk about the things that you and I have been talking about for years. Go ahead. You can go ahead and say it, because I think this is more your thing than me, but I agree with you 100%.
Oh, you to me could release a DVD of at least a couple of movies. I can't say that I've seen them all, but a couple of movies where you have one version that is the normal theatrical version, and then the other, sometimes they're comedies, sometimes they're not, the unintended comedy of the changes that are made.
Yes.
And I would actually like to have be able to sit down and talk to whoever came up and was the writer who came up with what was replaced.
Yeah, that was somebody's job.
That was somebody's job, and whether they were trying to be absurd or not, they created gold. I mean, absolute gold in some of those.
But to be clear, you and I want them to include those as alternate audio tracks on Blu-rays and DVDs.
Absolutely. That should be a separate movie, sort of like an audio commentary track.
Yeah, let us hear the TV edit.
The TV edit.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
Yeah, Mr. Falcon, or for the Big Lebowski fans out there.
Go ahead. What is it? I forgot now. This is what happens when you feed a stoner scrambled eggs? Is that what it is?
No, I've never heard that one before. This is what happens when
you find a stranger in the
Alps.
I think it's both. I think he switches back and forth. Yeah. This is what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps.
And by the way, for any of those looking, you can find T-shirts with both of those phrases, and I have almost purchased. The Alps one was the one that I almost did. And Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon is also there, but I really enjoy the Alps because they also have a silhouette of the Alps and a guy just up on there, which is just absolutely a fantastic shirt.
But that's a movie that just made the cut, because that doesn't even happen anymore. Like, they don't show movies edited on TV anymore.
No. And
if they do, they just drop the audio.
Yeah.
But even then,
they don't have a specific dub over it. And I actually, now that we're talking about this out loud, for a couple of them, if we can find them, in particular, I know the diehards, I think there's, besides Mr. Falcon, there's a couple of other good things. Whether it's the voiceover of Alan Rickman, I think is just comical in terms of its quality is really terrible. We should probably see if we can find TV edited versions, and even if it's just to find the stuff that's edited, to just get that and talk about that in those podcasts. I know the diehards will have, I think each one of them have it. I know Die Hard 2 does, because I think there's something else in Die Hard 2 that's really, really funny.
I'm pulling it up right now because we have that ability. Oh, that's some idiot taping off his TV, so it's not.
Yes, and
that probably wasn't even audible on the podcast, but
no, but it was Die Hard 2 that it got pulled up on.
Wait, what?
The video. What I mean, that's Die Hard 2 right now. That is not Die Hard 1. That's Die Hard 2.
Yeah, but that's what Mr. Falcon is from. It's only from Die Hard 2. I don't know what they did with Die Hard 1.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was Die Hard 1 as well.
No, Die Hard 2 is Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
Okay, all right. Well,
anyway, while we were, I don't know if you have some closing thoughts, but while we were talking about this, I had a thought for a name.
Please, I mean, that's what we were trying to get back to. And I got way off track, but it was kind of capturing the entire time period of those movies rather than just Schwarzenegger movies.
What you were describing is these movies have puns.
Yes.
And they have guns. Guns and puns and guns, or guns and puns.
I'd say, at least for right now, closing thoughts, that's a pretty good working title. It's
a step in the right direction.
Yes.
Or maybe like something puns and something guns.
Yeah, there's something there. I think because that will provide enough that if it was interesting enough to do other stuff, we're not just limiting ourselves to, or having to come up with a whole new title for,
right.
Simon, the Simon Phoenix podcast for Wesley Snipes,
or we could label. Well, this wouldn't work because there's actually a movie called Collateral Damage. I was gonna say if we were gonna talk about a movie that was not Arnold Schwarzenegger, just say like Collateral Damage and like as like a sub podcast, but that would be confusing when we actually talk about Collateral Damage.
Yes,
because it's like, wait, are they talking about that movie or something? It's not whatever. It's something about guns and puns.
I think that's getting there.
Or if there's a third word that rhymes.
Guns,
puns, and something guns. I don't know. I think guns and puns is not quite there.
No. As I said, it's a working title.
Yes. Okay.
We'll spend a little more time on that and come up with that.
All right. You want to stop recording? Have you had enough of this?
Unless you think we should try and bang out whatever you think should be the official episode 0. I mean, want to wait until we come up with the title.
No, I don't think we need to. I think this is basically episode 0. We just didn't introduce ourselves, and no one knows who the hell we are. So we're gonna have to stop and then record an intro.
Should we do the intro or work on that first?
On what?
On like who we are.
I'm pretty sure I know who I am.
What
do you mean?
What I'm saying is, do you want to stop the recording and like redo it, or wait, or do you want to do it now?
No, let's just record an intro and just like say like we just talked for however long it's been.
Probably 30. Isn't there something about whatever? It doesn't matter.
That's true.
It's irrelevant.
I'm recording, so it should say.
There we go. 40. I figured about 40 minutes.
43 minutes.
All right.
And I'm cutting bits and pieces out, but anyway.
Yeah, no, there's probably a decent amount of there. Probably at least 10 minutes that gets cut out, including that last 15 seconds.
including this and including this. Okay, I don't know. Should we come back and then record an ending? Whatever, bye.